All right. All right. Let's try. Fingers crossed. An unknown error has occurred again through Facebook. Let's try that again. Maybe if I erase the exclamation marks, is that what's causing it? I don't know, because I have exclamation marks in my title. Let's try it like this. An unknown error has occurred. I don't know if Facebook is simply down. All right. Yeah, something is, I am not sure what is up with the website, but it is not letting me stream. Not to Facebook. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll be sharing YouTube links out there. So congratulations, YouTube. You get to be part of this. Okay. For people who are going to be editing this video, we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. We're going. The U.S. China trade deal. What is going to happen next? The informed trader is the valuable trader. The valuable trader will be ahead of the everybody else trader. You are going to learn more about the U.S. China trade war than anybody that you know out there because most people do not know what it entails. Not only that, we are also going to show you what the market is going to do, how it's going to psych out the bulls and the bears, end up bullish and then bearish. And we're going to discuss all that and more. I am Mark Melnick. This is the Newsbeat Show. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newsbeat Show. So many things that we have to talk about today, including the U.S. China trade deal. And we're going to talk about everything it entails. I really feel that a lot of people don't actually understand what is actually happening. If you ask the average trader, somebody who's supposed to be very informed in the geopolitical climate in the world, you will likely not get a very detailed response. If you ask somebody what the U.S. China trade deal is about, they'll say, well, the US doesn't want their goods tariffed, and if China doesn't reduce their tariffs, we're going to increase our tariffs. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a mirage. That is not what the US China trade war and the trade talks are about. There's actually two sides that want something. Let's keep in mind that this is coinciding with further land domination in the South Sea, in the China South Sea, as China refers to it, basically taking waters that have been, international for a while, and they want control of the port there, which does well over 1 point something trillion dollars a year through the South China Sea. So it's obviously a phenomenally valuable waterway, and control of that waterway would allow you control of that 1 trillion plus dollars that flows through the ports there every year. So right now, I want to talk about the top priorities, and then we're going to list out what the United States want. We're going to list out what China wants, and then not only that, we're going to list out what I feel the market is going to do. But before we get into all that, by watching this video now, you are agreeing to hold me, Mark Melnick, and T3 Live, harmless and not responsible for anything that you may obtain through watching or looking at this video. By continuing to watch, you are agreeing to that. And thank you very much for agreeing to that. So we're going to start off with China and why this just coincidentally took place because unfortunately most people are delusional to why certain things happen. This is over spying and this is over control of the South China Sea from a military perspective. And the importance of understanding this is after I tell you this, I'm going to tell you the result of what's going to actually happen, and it's all going to be crystal clear, or rather, I guess you'll get my future opinion of what the market is going to do, how we're going to move, how we're going to react to it, etc. But first, I feel it's more valuable instead of just me telling you, all right, guys, I think we're going to go up and then down and then up, instead of just making something up like that, I'd rather have you understand the reasonings, the logic, and even the statistical data for what should happen during this U.S. China trade war. So, number one, let's talk about it. For Beijing, the top priority is to persuade the United States of America to back off harsh penalties on the China telecommunications giant ZTE, ease threats to impose hefty tariffs on Chinese goods, and reduce export restrictions. So, certain Chinese goods they have export restrictions because either they've been known toxins within carcinogenic products that China still, manufactures some of their toys with, believe it or not. Be careful of what you give to your kids. Made in China is sometimes very dangerous. With that being said, there's only one reason why a country of 1 point whatever 3, 4, 5, 6 billion, depending if the census is even correct. There's a reason why 1.5 billion people in China um, would want to have their government defend the telecommunications giant such as ZTE. ZTE is China's way of spying on the world. This is not conspiracy theory. This was found in the Huawei devices. If you go back and you simply just read articles on the literal, like the hardware that China was putting inside the chips that would relay information back to the country, it was a proven use of espionage. So the United States first discovered it. That's why we had all the issues with Huawei and everything, and it's all actually connected. None of this is actually a coincidence. So this is the I'm going to go through the United States demands here. So right now, Ross is going to try to get China to agree to long-term contracts to buy U.S. products such as agricultural materials, and in an effort to cut China's trade surplus with the U.S. by $200 billion. So basically, we're coming to China and saying, look, you have a lot of mouths to feed, and your produce is garbage. Let's put in the next step. When you go to China, you want to know the difference between pork sold in China from local Chinese farms as opposed to United States pork. It's 4 times as expensive, the US pork in China. Chicken, I'm not sure of the exact denomination, but it's very expensive as well. The US has a certain safety standard that is admired by the world and which you pay a premium for. You always get what you pay for at the end of the day. You'll always get what you pay for when it comes to these things. Even take a t-shirt made in the United States, 100% cotton t-shirt from US, 100% cotton t-shirt from China. The one from the US is 3 times more expensive. It is a massive, massive premium that people will have to pay to, enjoy American products. So the US is coming to them with an agricultural thing because our farmers overproduce. So we want to dump our produce on someone. Let's just be perfectly clear as well. And China would be the perfect candidate because our produce, again, is simply better. I mean, if you literally look at I'll put it this way. If you literally looked at the DNA of the animals in which we're eating, you would find so many more literal DNA signatures of issues with the animals and the products that they use there based on the fertilizer, based on the feed, based on the animal. They're genetically different creatures. You could call a pig or a cow, but on a DNA perspective, it looks different under the microscope. So you have to understand that as well. So US One of the things we want from this trade war is to give 200 billion to cut 200 billion dollars in surplus by 2020. The next is to protect U.S. technology. So basically, what Beijing has been doing is they've been giving subsidies to boost high tech sectors that China wants to dominate. So basically, the government is saying, how many billions of dollars do you need to become the top in A, B, C, D, E, F, G from a technological perspective? Okay, here's the government giving you money. So there's no competitiveness, meaning if the US does something more competitive, China can outbeat us because they'll just dump more money into it. It really comes down to money at the end of the day. So Washington, US, is demanding that Beijing, China, ends these subsidies aimed at boosting these high-tech sectors. That's another thing to protect US technology. By January 1st of now next year, first it was January 1st of 2019. From before, the US wanted China to eliminate specific policies and practices on technology transfer. So what happened was anytime China would go into a deal with a United States company, it would always be a joint venture, and they're forced to hand over all intellectual property. That was one of the things that Google was having issues with when trying to create China's a web browser in China. Look up Operation Dragonfly on the internet. It's a real thing. And US also wants China to stop retaliating against US agricultural products through tariffs or inspections and testing at the Chinese border. So there's what's happening is the US are bringing agricultural products here. They're being inspected by the Chinese officials at the water, and then they're sending them back saying they don't meet the Chinese standards, which is obviously BS. It's a joke because the Chinese products are 100, I don't know, I'm making a number up, 1,000 times worse than the United States products from so many perspectives. I mean, I don't want to get nerdy on the issue, but we're talking things from, from the amount of uric acid in the beef, which is not good, from the amount of metals, toxins, pesticides, chemicals. I mean, you're talking, it's like completely different. And they're sitting there like sending the stuff back overseas, back, sending it back after coming in. So the US wants that. That was actually one of the demands of the US. Now, the US said what they want. Stay tuned because I'm going to tell you how the market's going to move because of this, and it's going to confuse you. And I'll even spell it out for you too. China's demands. China wants to save this ZTE. That's their number one objective. They want to save this company, this telecommunications giant, simply because they work for the Chinese government. I mean, that being said, you could call it whatever. You could call it a public company or a private company. It's a government-run company, and if they shut down this telecommunications giant, it's going to hinder many of China's operations worldwide. Not only that, China wants the U.S. to abandon the penalties it outlined in terms of these trade wars to combat what it sees as China's harmful intellectual property practices, including tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods. China also wants the U.S. to ease export restrictions on high tech goods because China was stealing the information through Huawei, through physical chips. I mean, you could see the spy chip implanted. Like, it's the funny. You have to look it up on the internet. It's the funniest thing ever. And China doesn't want to suffer, you know, threats from that and restrictions from that because anytime you try to export a Chinese telecommunication device, the whole world is going to be like, well, we might as well, put it in our bathrooms and our bedrooms. Like, you might as well share it with, your most intimate details with China. And the last thing, two more things, but one of the last things here is there's something known as Section 301. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it basically China wants um, the U.S. to pledge not to launch in the future any new cases of tariffs for different reasons and new export restrictions under Section 301. So China is trying to seek immunity in the future and just wants U.S. to pledge it, nothing else. Like just our word is good enough, according to the Chinese. And last but not least, again, they want China to have market economy status. So they want to be treated as a market economy when applying for U.S. trade laws. Um, The designation, which China thinks that it deserves since December of 2016, would require the U.S. to change the way it calculates penalties if it finds China has been dumping in a way that would be more favorable for Beijing. The last thing, of course, China wants the two sides to agree to a provision that would bind the U.S. to a commitment not to undertake any unilateral trade or investment restrictions against China. And if the U.S. breaks that commitment, China would withdraw its promises. And that is basically where the U.S. China trade war is. So I felt that was an interesting perspective. Now you want to know where the market is moving? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where the market can move as a result of this. So we saw a massive, massive, massive gap down. We gapped down like $4 on the triple Qs today. Spiders, massive, massive gap down as well. We opened up approximately 5 points lower in the spiders today, only to rally throughout the day. Only to rally throughout the day. So I did find that interesting. Now, what happened tonight is something very interesting happened tonight, and we're going to go over that right now. We're going to talk about why the market just plummeted at right after 5 o'clock today. So we're going to talk about that. So, U.S. Treasury U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin is basically saying the entire economic team is unified in recommending that the U.S. is going to go ahead with tariffs if there's not an agreement by Friday. This is going to be key. You have to stay tuned for this because this is going to be key. It's going to be a crazy week beyond what we're seeing up until this point. All right, you ready for this? U.S. Secretary, let's just call him Mnuchin from now on, Secretary, Treasury Secretary, saying not going to negotiate to go backwards. We have negotiated in good faith, saying if we hear something different from the Chinese this week, we will report that and obviously consider it. Trump would like a deal with substantial structural changes. That's not where we are right now. Over the course of the last week, we have seen an erosion in commitments from China, saying the China delegation will be here Thursday and Friday and expects the Chinese vice president to attend. All right, this is a very big deal. China is taking this first of all by sending. It's kind of funny of how it works in politics, on the geopolitics, depending on who you send over to something, whether it's a meeting, an event, a funeral, a this, who comes over to the event is a very big deal. Who comes over to that event is a very big deal. The fact that China is sending their, potentially from what we're hearing, their vice president, China is taking these threats, if you will, very, very, very seriously. They are taking it extremely seriously. And this is also, and I'm just going to finish up here with what's said, and then I'm going to share with you the juice or what I think the market's going to do. Okay. Um, U.S. Treasury Secretary saying that China moved away from language in the agreement that would have changed it substantially. So nobody really knows what that means so much, whether that's positive or negative. They're sort of speaking in cryptic terms over here. But let's discuss that too for a second. So we have the market gap down. Let's discuss this. We have the market gap down massively, rally today, and now you see it gap down again as these tariffs are going to be implemented. I am telling you right now what's going to happen. The best thing for both countries to happen is a win-win situation. The last thing China wants is to deal with a trade war with the US as it is expanding its property into the South China Sea. Basically, what China is doing is they are pulling a Russia-Crimea situation, is the best analogy to use here. They're just basically saying that land was always ours and we're just annexing it or taking it or controlling it or just they're literally building man-made islands like in the middle there to like post, you know, military defensive depots. So this is what I think is going to happen. By Friday, you are going to have one of two events, obviously, from what you could tell. They're either going to come to some sort of rosy agreement, or the United States is going to implement the tariffs, or potentially both, believe it or not. What is going to happen by this Friday, in my humble opinion, is the best case scenario for the US and China. China is going to come out and they're going to end up buying US goods as a form of appeasement to delay the tariff implementation by Friday. I'm going to repeat it very easily. I'll say it right now because people are trading right now as if this is 100%. We are to me, I would put the odds of us not doing it. You ready for this? Hear me out. Hear me out. Because everybody is betting this is going to happen right now. We saw the tweets from the president. We see the messagings from the Treasury Secretary. We see China sending over delegates, including the vice president, which is the second biggest deal in China next to President Xi. I am telling you what's going to happen right now. Now, maybe you think I have a time machine and it's cheating. It's not fair that I could just fast forward till Friday and then, back to the future by going 88 miles an hour during an electric rainstorm and come back to talk to you guys. But I will tell you right now that this is not going to pass. And I'm going to tell you what I think the market's going to do too. But we are going to prolong these tariffs, and China is going to buy U.S. goods. Now, many people are going to say, well, from what you're predicting, Mr. Melnick, there should be a bullish turnaround. Every single dip from this point forward is a buying opportunity. People are acting irrationally. The fact that the market gapped down so big with nothing new coming out and just rallied, I mean, you have to see the magnitude of what happened today. Now, granted, after the first, you know, 25, 30 minutes, it was just a grind, a death grind all day, but it did go higher. That was the market's reaction. Now we're gapped down because, oh, we might tariff China. Now, you will never guess in the world what's going to happen. The whole point of a down move when it actually starts to happen is to shake every person out of it. This move is going to hurt a lot of the bulls and bears out there because this is what I feel is going to happen. By Friday, the China is going to agree to do um, to invest X amount, pledge X amount of billions of dollars to agriculture and whatever, whether they already did the soybean. So I don't know if there's another product that they might want. Maybe, pork is a very big thing in China. I think they're the number one consumers of pork in the world. Again, I'm sure there's other things too, vegetation and whatnot that China likes to import. But this deal is going to happen by Friday. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a shakeup in the market where we're literally making people think swing long, swing short, swing long, swing short. Everybody's going to get confused today. We didn't get confused today. We did pretty well. But people are going to get confused of what's happening. So this is what I predict what happens. All right, so we're gapped down a little at the moment. I'm not really reading it as much. To me, it doesn't matter. If on Friday, what I say happens, the market's going to gap up and run. That will be the top of the market. So I'm telling you that to me is the top of the market. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you should be buying puts after you see the gap up? Does that mean you should be shorting things? No. What I am preparing you for is a counter trend situation. And even though shorting the highs is a counter trend situation, you can do it, but you have to use very low conviction. Because this is a market here that doing the opposite thing of where the market goes is always the right reaction. And even though today was the first day you saw it, you're probably going to see it tomorrow. This down move tomorrow is probably going to get gobbled up. And you're going to see, you know, rumors circulating that you haven't seen. You're going to see rumors over the next 2 days circulating how uh, China is going to want to try to settle it and make nice and try to play nice against the world stage. When you try to send a message on the world stage, you're always the good guy. You're never the bad guy. You're always the good guy when you try to set things on the world stage. Yes, we're going to talk to the United States and see if we could get an agreement that helps both countries and, say what you need to say. And as soon as they start reading that, people are going to think an agreement is going to happen. The agreement will happen. It's going to be beneficiary mainly towards those hundreds of billions of dollars. That's the first thing. They're not going to get everything done per se, but they're going to delay it. And that is what I humbly believe is going to come out of the United States policy from this. They're going to delay it, saying we'll give it another I don't even want to make up a number, a month, 2 months, a week, 2 weeks, a year, whatever number it is. We're going to prolong it and see if we could get to this level by this time. Because the U.S., if you actually read the words from the Treasury Secretary, and this was really the key that gave it away. So remember, I'm explaining to you what's going to happen. When you actually see this happen, just remember why it happened, because I'm literally telling you the why, and I'm telling you the why and what, but you can't see what because the what is in the future. So you'll have to come back to this video, and I'll be right or I'll be wrong, and I'll stand corrected, but this is what I think is going to happen. This is the key line right here. U.S. Treasury Secretary says, not going to negotiate to go backwards. We have negotiated in good faith. So basically, in English, when you say we have negotiated in good faith, you know what that translates into? China has been negotiating on bad faith, is what they're saying. The opposite is true for the adversary of the trade war. We have negotiated in good faith. So all China has to do from a psychological perspective, see now we're getting into psychology, is literally just show good faith negotiations. And by purchasing US products and trying to reach agreements in the future, we are going to agree to prolong the tariffs. Now, this is what's going to happen. So after the US prolongs the tariffs and we sign hundreds of billions of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you're going to shoot through these ascending resistance lines potentially of the triple Qs. You're going to end up going higher, but then you're going to top out, and that's going to be the top of the market. So if you remember from yesterday's Newsbeat show, again, I don't know how high it goes. I mean, it's going to gap up big. Does it break the high here in ascending resistance? I hope so. But if you remember on my last video, I said, warning, the market tops out officially. I still mean that. I still mean that. I'm just not sure if my watch is 4 days early or 4 days late. That's it. That's all it is. This is where the market tops out. Because as soon as you remove this overhang of the U.S. China trade war, or at least remedy the situation just a bit, I am telling you right now, you're hearing it, it is, I'll date it. Again, it's Monday, May 6, 2019. The market's going to move up higher as if this was the big thing. And then we are going to, I'll use the word correct. Now, what kind of correction is a correction? To me, a 5% move would be a correction. So the Qs are at 189.94. Let's call it 190. Let's call it 190 where we closed at. I would say the Qs can drop to 180 or below. Now, many people are like, that's not a big down move. Look where we came from. But no, 180 is a pretty significant leg lower than where we are. It would bring us back you ready for this stupidity? You ready for this stupidity? It would bring us to the levels in the last week of March. It would actually bring us back to the level near the first day of April. What changed between now and April? What changed between now and April? I'll tell you what changed between now and April. The Qs decided to go up 11 points between the beginning of April and now. We're what, a month and a week in, if that? 4 trading days so far of May. I mean, we're going to go down to 180. But what's going to do is it's going to go down, it's going to go up, It's going to confirm up after the news I told you. So if and when the news does come true, I mean, look, obviously I'm going to take puts in it. I just don't think we're in the market where it would pay to go super duper heavy in a situation like this. It's going to bring back news flow, and we're going to make more and more and more intraday profitable money trades. If and when the market pulls down, we'll be ready to catch things that are pulling back. You haven't seen any of the big swings. You haven't seen any of the big swing strategies yet, simply because the market really did not move down. I mean, you could call the market what it is right here, but we closed at 190 and the all-time high is 191.32. You tell me how beaten up this market is. You tell me. It's down $1.32 off the all-time highs. You tell me how beaten up the Qs are. I do think a 10-point drop is in order. I spelled it out exactly how you're going to see it. I spelled out the resolution of this Chinese U.S. trade war. I did it in a way that is not shared by anybody on the internet. Nobody, advised me on this. I don't have any secret sources. This is all using public information from Google. And I will tell you right now that in a situation like this is how I see it panning out. But the goal is to trick the bulls and trick the bears and make both of them lose money. And the way I described that would achieve that scenario. We're gap down right now. Do I think this is going to be a buying opportunity? Yeah, I do. Does that mean we just go right up in the morning? Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll have to see, how it's panning out. But, to drop and just put in a rally like this, I mean, I am telling you, this is to me where the market starts to say, okay, we're topping out. And again, very bold, phenomenally bold prediction I am making. I get it. This market has been, by some metrics, the most bullish market that we've ever seen. And I'm basically spelling out the why and the what as it's going to pan out this week. Some levels for tomorrow would help, Mr. Melnick, wouldn't they? These are my levels for tomorrow, May 7th. These levels don't always hit, but when they do, I personally tend to have an easy time making money by buying when support breaks and shorting when resistance breaks, or doing calls and puts respectively. Don't tattoo them, they change every day. Here they are. Have a lot of exciting things coming up, including our new Newsbeat Bandit courses, our Newsbeat Bandit course, which gives you access to be a Newsbeat Bandit and help you through that transformational period. It's going to have a lot of wonderful things from strategy, methodology, psychology. It's basically an all-in-one package that helps you make money in today's environment and also keeps you having an easy way to um, get updates. So when the market evolves and changes, you're going to want a strategy that works right then and there. You get those updates as well. So it's obviously a very important service. And again, just really excited to offer it to you guys. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to see us trade, if you'd like to see me and the Newsbeat Live community trade, this crazy U.S. China trade war market, including a really beautiful catch we did today on SBGI. My goodness, was that beautiful? That was my best traded stock to the day of the day. Very just beautiful formation. And again, we don't do a lot of trades here. We try to make our trades count. We really believe in the mentality that less is more. And that is always true from so many different angles and perspectives. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys because it's viewers like you that make the Newsbeat Live Room T3's #1 largest, fastest growing trading room. Happy trading, make money. I will see you guys tomorrow on the Newsbeat Live trading broadcast. $49 a month. You could see us trade. Link in the description. Have a wonderful evening.